Last year, movie comes out. I'm all excited. I read the book, loved it. Go see the movie, loved it. Immediately, there's like the rumors and stuff going around because Blake and all of her peeps from It Ends With Us are not following Justin Baldoni online on Instagram. None of them are following him. They're all doing their campaigns, their PR stuff, their press campaign without him. He's doing his alone, and then they're all together. So immediately, rumors were coming out. Everybody was like, there's drama. There's drama. The dogs are sniffing. Like, what's the drama? What's happening? And the rumor at the time comes out that it's a creative difference, that Blake was stepping in too much on the film and trying to take, I don't know, I don't want to say ownership because we didn't think that at the time, but trying to put too much of her 2 cents in, and that Justin Baldoni had issues with it, and that's where it all came from. So that's kind of what was coming out. But then the hate starts. So I know people are going to disagree with this, but I don't care. I'm saying this anyway. Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds were like the Hollywood dream team. Everybody loved those two. I have posted tons of things on the two of them in the past, like their little online jokes that they do when they kind of razz each other and their Instagram and stuff like that. People loved it. All positive comments, all positive. I love Blake and Ryan. I love this. They're the best. Like, etc., etc. There was all of this positivity. There was never, and I'm going to say that again, there was never any hate towards Blake Lively. I know people now are like, she's a mean girl. She's always been a mean girl. People hated her. No, there wasn't. No, there wasn't. Because I read my comments, and back then when I was posting the jokes and stuff from Ryan and Blake, I wasn't at 1 million followers, so it was easier for me to read my comments. So I saw all the stuff everybody was posting, and there was no hate towards Blake. Nobody was ever saying, Blake Lively's a mean girl. You know, I hate Blake Lively. Never. None of that started until August. Now, here's my thoughts on it. Nobody is innocent in this. Both camps are in the wrong. And there can be more than one wrong happening at the same time, if you know what I mean. So Blake did not handle the promotion of It Ends With Us properly. But I don't want to just say Blake. I'm going to say the cast. And here's why. We now know when this movie was being pushed out, their PR person, the person who tells them what to talk about, what not to talk about, gave them a letter that said, avoid focusing on the DV in this situation. We want you to focus on the hope. And that's what Colleen Hoover wanted. This is her movie, guys. This is her mom's life story. Like, this is what this woman lived through. And that's what she wanted to focus on. She wanted to show the hope and the love that can come out of these horrible situations. She didn't want everybody to be woe is me and my life is over in these situations. She wanted people to, one, see how easily horrible situations like this can happen and not to blame the victim, but also just to show that there's hope on the other side for these women, that this doesn't define your whole life. Like, you can move past this and have this beautiful life and, you know, yada, yada, yada. So that's kind of the way they wanted this promoted. And I get that, but I don't think the public was ready for that. Anybody who hadn't read that book, that wouldn't have been a good way to promote this. Because as soon as you watch the movie, like, I went with my mom who's never seen the movie. My mom was like, like, as soon as Ryle hit her for the first time. I knew it was coming, and I knew the hope that was going to be in it. But people don't know that unless you read the book. So I just think that it left people with a bad taste in their mouth. And it got started going around a bit, like, questioning it. Like, why is this movie being promoted as flowery? Why is this movie this? Why? That's what started. And then it just went like a wildfire. People all, instead of asking why the cast was promoting it like that, little clips of Blake's interviews where she looked bad in any sense at all were being clipped and shared instead of the whole interview. So if you guys remember, in August, I was sharing posts on that and being like, why are we showing just partial bits of interviews here? Why are we trying to make Blake look bad? What's going on? Like, I knew something was up. And I was like screaming at you guys about it. And you guys were all like, basically, not all, but a lot of people were like sending the hate back, like being like, you're just being paid by Blake's PR team. But I saw it happening. I couldn't understand why there was no context around things and little clips were being clipped and shared and not the rest. And I'm not the only one. I actually shared an interview that one of the reporters did. So his interview with Blake Lively was shared. His was one that was clipped and only a bit was shown. And he went on his news channel and was like, I don't know what's happened, like this hate towards Blake Lively, but they only showed a piece of my interview. He's like, goes on, he says, Blake answered the question in a really respectful way, but only a bit of it was shown. So I completely, 1,000 gazillion% believe there was a campaign smear against her. However, I also believe that's what PR companies do. I'm sure Blake's team started doing the same thing back at Justin Baldoni. I mean, that's how this works. That's how PR companies work. They try and push the good stories about their person and promote the bad stuff. So I totally think that happened. Do I think that Justin Baldoni's team planted stories about Blake? No, to an extent. I don't think they planted stories. Like, I don't think anything was false. I think they pushed the bad out excessively. And I think they hunted for the bad, if that makes sense. Just as an example, that woman who came out, Kirsty Flaw, who posted her interview. I did a whole thing on that, as you guys know. That was complete BS, in my opinion. They knew that she had done what they consider a bitchy interview in 2016. And they hunted for it. They found bad interviews. That's their job. That's what they get paid for, right? To find bad press. And they got someone to get a hold of Kirsty Flaw and get her to re-release it. And there's so much evidence of that, guys. Like, for the people that are like, that's not the case. BS. So much evidence. One, Kirsty Flaw came out and said that. She said another reporter friend contacted her and asked her about her interview with Blake Lively, and they had this big conversation about it, and he convinced her to post it again. This woman, Kirsty Flaw, hadn't posted anything on her YouTube channel in over a year before that video. Like, she was done. She was not posting anything. She didn't have a channel going. Like, she only had a few videos until the Blake Lively thing. She had nothing on her TikTok channel for like 3 years or something crazy like that. Like, she only came out and posted that video because she got a phone call asking her to do it. Now, what's happening is people are now accusing her of being part of the smear campaign. I don't believe that. I don't think that she was necessarily part of the smear campaign. I think she was an unknowing part. I think whoever called her was part of the smear campaign. I think that the reporter friend of hers was working for Melissa Nathan, and there's more evidence of that. Melissa Nathan is the crisis PR person, and Melissa Nathan also represented Johnny Depp, and as you guys know, he smeared the crap out of Amber Heard, but maybe rightfully so, right, considering the whole situation. But this same reporter, Kirsty Flaw, released a really bad interview she did with Amber Heard at the time of Johnny Depp and Amber Heard's trial. Like, it's too much coincidence, guys. Like, somebody's definitely setting that stuff up. And in my opinion, that interview is what really ruined Blake. And in Justin's lawsuit that just came out, it shows a text message between TMZ and Melissa Nathan, the crisis manager, and they're talking about that interview. And the TMZ person, who I think hates Blake from the look of it, was like, this interview effed her, and they had interviewed Kirsty Flaw as well, and Melissa Nathan and him were like laughing about it and writing back and forth about how screwed Blake Lively is over that. So I just totally think that was like set up. So yes, I do think that they dug up bad press or bad PR about Blake and aired it. I also think that's what they all probably do. But again, I'm not a PR manager, so I don't know. But that is part of the smear campaign part of it. So do I believe that there was a smear campaign? I absolutely do. I watched it play out. They were promoting and plugging and seeding, like talking to the reporters that are in their back pocket all of the bad stuff about Blake. And that's what they do. So people that are denying it, like, that's literally what they get paid to do. It's just that they did it a bit shadier. And I completely believe that. That's the smear campaign. The other part is the sexual harassment part of it all. Okay, so for the sexual harassment side of it, yes, I completely believe it. Now, there is so much evidence in Justin Baldoni's text messages that Blake's PR manager was not leaking the HR stories. I don't know if that was the point of his messaging. I don't think so. But you can see that they were keeping this mum. They did not want to ruin the release of the movie, was my guess. So she wasn't telling anyone about it, and neither was her PR. There are text messages between Leslie Sloan, her publicist, and the Daily Mail dude named James, who's BFS with Melissa Nathan, his crisis person. And she doesn't talk about the HR complaints at all. She doesn't even mention it. Like, it's crickets. That none of them brought it up. And none of them brought it up until the release of her complaint and then the lawsuit. So I completely believe it. I also believe it because this is way before there was any bad press at all against Blake. This is when everybody loved Blake. This was at the beginning of filming this movie. So the way this went down, guys, was the writer's strike. So they start filming the movie. Blake is feeling a bit uncomfortable with some of the stuff that went down. Apparently the rest of the cast was as well. So Blake takes it on herself to get her legal team to write up kind of like a list of things that she wants to happen to be more comfortable. And they have a meeting at her house. There's 30 things on this list. 17 of them had to do with Justin Baldoni and Jamie Heath, the other lead producer. They present all of this stuff, and the Wayfair team signs it. The production company says, yep, we agree. They sign it. She says everything got better after that. Once that was out there, they were all like, yep, okay, let's move on. So they resumed filming and everything worked out. So the people that are saying, why didn't she come forward before this? That's why. Her legal team, in the email, if you wanted to read it in her complaint, it's 70 pages. It says in the email, we would rather deal with this between us in a meeting as opposed to make a formal HR complaint, because a formal HR complaint puts everything on hold. It's this whole big thing. It could shut down the movie. Like, it's bad. So they were like, absolutely. So they got together. They had this out. Hold on, turning off invites. They had this all out, and it was decided that, yes, we'll sign this. These are all, respectful, normal things that should be happening. And they all agreed on it. Now, I feel, if I'm being honest, that it's a matter of perspective for a lot of it. Just as an example, Justin Baldoni telling Blake and the other females on set that they looked sexy in their outfits. I don't think he meant that in a sexual harassment way. I don't think he meant that malicious. I think he felt comfortable probably with these people, and he thought this was a compliment and was saying it. And she just took it the other way. It made her feel icky, made her feel cringe, maybe because she didn't like him. I don't know. But I just think that's a matter of perspective. I don't think he necessarily did anything wrong. But if you're in a place of work, you have to be careful with how you say things. Like, HR complaints, unfortunately, run rampant. Lisa, thank you, darling. So if you were in a place of work, like I'm in a school, if a male teacher that I work with told me that I looked sexy, that would be an instant HR complaint, right? So I get where Blake is coming from for that, but I also get where Justin's coming from. Like, I don't think he meant that in any malicious way, if that makes sense. Another part of it that Blake had in that was one of the lead producers, Jamie Heath. When they're going through Lily's labor scene, he decides it's a good idea to show Blake and some other cast members the video of his wife giving birth. And Blake said at first when he shows the phone, she immediately thinks it's like an inappropriate video, like a corno, because she's buck naked. The wife's buck naked in like a tub in their home, and it's all dark. I've seen a screenshot of it. So she immediately is like, what the? And then she quickly realizes it's a labor video, but his wife is buck naked. That's a very personal video, right? Like, I would kill my husband if he showed anyone that. Like, that's personal. Now, Jamie Heath does say apparently that he had permission from his wife, so that's different, but yeah. Blake didn't ask to see it. It was just kind of shown to her, so that was one of the things that made her uncomfortable. That's her perspective. If that made her uncomfortable, it actually would me too. I don't want to see another naked woman pushing a baby out, but that's prerogative for whoever. So that was kind of another side. I don't think Jamie Heath was being inappropriate. No, that's not the right word. I don't think he was being a pervert, I guess, by showing this at all. I don't think he was like, check out my naked wife. Like, I think he was like, look at this amazing moment. Let's try and capture some of this. And she just didn't like looking at his naked wife. I think that's kind of where it's going with that. The next part. Thanks, Laura. The next part. This one is a big one to me. And we need to chat about this for a sec. We'll go to Blake's first. In Blake's complaint, first of all, Blake filed a complaint in California because it's a prerequisite to filing a human rights lawsuit. So she didn't have a choice. In California, she had to do the complaint first. Then if it doesn't get settled, it goes to a lawsuit. In New York, however, you don't have to do that. So that's why she has now filed a lawsuit against him and everybody else in New York. She filed the lawsuit in New York the same day he and his team filed the lawsuit in New York against the New York Times. So they filed on the same day. And in he tries to say Blake filed the complaint because she didn't want to go to discovery. That's obviously not true because they filed the actual lawsuits that for the New York federal case the same day. So that's not true. He's just trying to make her look bad by saying that she didn't want everything out, but obviously they both do. Sorry, I'm squirreling here. There's just so much to talk about, you guys. Okay. One of the big things in the text messages. So one of the big things for Blake that she listed was she did not want Jamie Heath, the lead producer, or Justin Baldoni just randomly walking into her trailer anymore. She said that they would come unannounced, would knock, would just come in. Again, side note, I don't think this is malicious at all on the part of these men. I think they probably, from being together for so long, kind of get this tight-knit relationship and feel comfortable enough to do this. But unfortunately, a few times it sounds like when they did this, she was in a state of undress, or was breastfeeding, or was having makeup removed, different things. And it was making her uncomfortable. She said she tried to talk to them about it, but it doesn't sound like it went very well. So then they had that formal meeting. I get both sides of that. I get them feeling comfortable enough with her that they can just pop in, but I also get her side where she's like, stop popping in. Like, I'm not comfortable with this. You're catching me at awkward times. I get that. So one of the things she said was that in that complaint about them just popping in, that one time she was breastfeeding. She said she'd be breastfeeding and they'd pop in. In his legal lawsuit to the New York Times, he has not sued Blake Lively yet. They say it's coming, but he hasn't yet. This is to the New York Times, but it's got all of his side of the story in that, which is the point of doing that, right? In that, he's got a screenshot between him and Blake, and this is what the screenshot says. Blake says to him, I'm just breastfeeding if you want to run through our lines. And he responds and says, sounds good. I'm just eating with the team or whatever. And she says, don't rush. And then he writes back and he says, I'm done. I'll meet you at hair and makeup. So he wasn't going to her trailer for that. He said, I'll meet you at hair and makeup, like to run through the lines. Then she says, sorry, I just got this or whatever. So it sounds like if you read the write-up in that, it sounds like they're saying she was inviting him to her trailer and that she's comfortable breastfeeding around, or sorry, she was pumping, excuse me. It didn't say breastfeeding, it said pumping. I'm pumping. So it's making it sound like she's okay with him coming to the trailer while she's pumping, and she totally could have been. But there's a couple things that need to have context around that for that. Pumping in your trailer alone and pumping in your trailer when you're expecting someone looks totally different. And women who have breastfed will know this, or anyone who's been around breastfeeders. If you're pumping alone somewhere, you're pretty much naked. You got your shirt off, you've got pumpers on both boobs, like you don't care. There's no modesty. If you're pumping and you know someone is coming, you might have your shirt over it, or you've got like one of those like breastfeeding covers on, like you're being modest, right? So that's one part of it. The second part is she didn't mention pumping in the complaint. She said breastfeeding. So it's two totally different things as well. But again, breastfeeding in public and breastfeeding when you're expecting someone or when you're alone, is completely different. If you are breastfeeding in public or you know someone's coming, you're modest. You have your baby, you might have that cover up over, you've got your shirt on, like you're showing as little as possible. You're not flopping it all out, right? If you're in public, you're covered. If you're in your trailer doing it by yourself, you're practically naked. Your shirt's off, your boobs are out. Like, you're like, hey, I'm breastfeeding because no one's in here and it's just me. Like, there's such a difference between that. So for him to try and make it sound like, hey, she's fine with me breastfeeding, so it's okay that I walked in her trailer while she had her boob out feeding her kid. That to me is asinine. Like, that is a ridiculous thing to put in there. And I think the jury's going to be like, what? Like, I just think that's two totally different things. I completely, again, like I said, believe Justin would be around her while she was pumping her breastfeeding. I'm sure she was comfortable with that, but I'm sure she didn't have like her boobs hanging out and whatever. And she knew it was happening. Like, it wasn't like him just busting into the trailer and seeing that. So there's a big difference with that. So those are a couple things that were in there. The accusation that the New York Times left out things or twisted text messages or changed things to make it sound better for her is also BS, guys. I know you don't want to hear this stuff. I know you, for some reason, are all hating on Blake Lively, but sorry, I read through all of the 2 documents and it's BS. So what the claims are, and I went through all of them, what it is he would say they showed like a top part of a message and they didn't show the rest. From what I gathered, the stuff they left out is because it didn't have context to what they were trying to say. Like, it didn't have anything to do with their point. It kind of was like null or mute. But also, if you guys look at some of the text messages, guys, it's more damning in my opinion. Some of the stuff that Blake's team left out actually makes their side look worse. Like, I didn't quite understand it. One of the things that they're trying to say, which is kind of silly, in probably one of the most damning text messages that they shared, it's between Melissa Nathan, the PR person, and Jen Abel, who's the publicist for Justin Baldoni. And they are talking about the fact that Justin wasn't happy with how things played out in the letter, like the scenario letter that he got from the team saying, like, this is how we're going to take Blake Lively down. He said it wasn't tough enough. And so they're having this message back and forth where they're like, okay, you know, Justin's not happy. He wants you to be tougher. And they're like, listen, we can't write down all the things he wants us to do, because imagine if it got in the wrong hands. And then they're like, yeah, we totally understand. You know, Justin's a worrier, whatever. I get it. I'll handle it. So there was like a little bit of that conversation that got left out, but it's not something that was relevant to the conversation. It actually makes it look worse, because it's Jennifer Abel being like, I'll deal with them. I'll let them know that you're going to handle this and that you're going to be tough. And anyway, it's just odd. The other one, do you want me to go? Okay, hold on. I'm going to go subscribers only because my mod said it's getting rough in here for them. Guys, I love multiple opinions. I love everybody sharing their opinions, but if you're being nasty, my mods have to mute or block you. Like, just be respectful. If you're team Justin, great. Let me know that, but just be respectful when you're doing it. I'm going to turn on sub-only chat, guys, just so subscribers are the only ones that can chat, and it'll get rid of some of the hate that's supposedly coming in here. Let me see if I can figure it out. Thanks, mods, for letting me know. Okay, I think I did it. Did I do it? If you're a subscriber, can you drop something to let me know if I did it? I did it. Okay. Yeah, if you guys want to chat, feel free to subscribe, but please, if you're a hater, don't subscribe. Anyhow, okay, back to it. And please, there's no reason to hate in here. I don't understand what the hate between Justin and Blake's teams is happening. Like, we can all have differences of opinions here. You can believe Justin. I can believe Blake. You know, I try and look at both sides, but I definitely am on Team Blake just because I watched all this kind of play out and was like, what's happening? So I can't help it if I'm a bit biased on this situation, but it is my channel. And if I want to be biased, I can be biased. I'm just saying, I'm not like a professional reporter. I have my own opinions that I can share on here, but I definitely try and do it in a respectful way. And I hope you guys can too. Okay, back to it. So the other text message is, in my opinion, kind of ridiculous on Justin's side. I hate to say it, but I think a lot of people are agreeing. Even Team Justin people are agreeing with this one. The text message is between Melissa, Jed Wallace, who's the hired hitman. He's the one who like plants negative pieces and stuff like that. That's his job, to make someone look bad. And Melissa Nathan, who is the crisis manager, and Jennifer Abel, who's his publicist. In this, they share an article, and it's a really bad one against Blake. And in the article, it lists all the negative of how she's like, you know, going about publicizing the thing and everything else. But what else is in there? Hold on, I gotta turn off invites, guys. Oh, we got Perez Hilton wanted to come in. He probably wants to battle, though. I'd love to chat with him if he was just chatting, but I don't want to battle right now. I just declined. Okay. So anyway, in this, they share this nasty article about Blake that is all negative and nasty. And they write in it and say, and I'm going to quote this wrong because I can't remember it from memory, but basically, Melissa Nathan says, or it's Jennifer Abel, says, you outdid yourself with this one. And she's got an upside down smiley face. And then it's Jennifer Abel that writes it. And then Melissa Nathan responds and says, that's what you pay me for. Like, thank you, well done. Now, context on this. In Blake Lively's 70-page document, there are messages in that, and it shows that Jennifer Abel and Melissa Nathan are having this conversation, and Melissa Nathan, the PR person, says, the crisis manager says, I have my person at the Daily Mail on standby. They're ready to release as soon as we tell them. So we know that she's got a BFF at the Daily Mail, who his name's James. We see a bunch of text messages with him. We know that he's in her back pocket. We know that they're BFFs, and he's waiting on her to release this article. Okay, so we already know that. We've already seen that. So this message that Justin's team puts out has the upside down smiley face. So his team is trying to say, because Blake's team left out the smiley face, that the context isn't out, and that this smiley face signifies, and the first thing they say is sarcasm, then they say irony, and then they say silliness. It's definitely silliness because the two girls are bantering back and forth, but they're being serious. Like, they know where that article came from. It's so obvious. And Jen is saying, like, you outdid yourself with this, like, holy. And then she's got the upside down smiley face, like, and Melissa Nathan responds, like, this is what you pay me for. And then she's like, I'm going to contact you in 45 minutes. And Jennifer writes back, no, I didn't agree in having no contact for 45 minutes. Unacceptable. And then there's a laughy emoji. Like, they're loving this. This is what they want. This is good press for them. It is not something that was planted, in my opinion, however. I think it was on how the movie was pushed out. It was a whole article about how she was like tone deaf and all that stuff. So it is kind of organic. Like, I don't think they planted that. I certainly think they skewed it, but I don't think they planted it. But their point is that the upside down smiley face wasn't there. I got a phone call, sorry. Hopefully I'm not muted in here. So the whole point is they're trying to say, like, it was sarcasm. They weren't being serious. Absolutely they were. That was their article, and they were like, holy, check this article out, it's bad. And she's like, this is what you pay me for. Like, that absolutely was there. So that smiley face, the upside down one, proves nothing. And the reason it got left out of Blake Lively's messages is because the program, I guess we'll call it, that Blake's lawyers used to get these text messages is actually an official program that people use, and it extracts information and it gives you all the timestamps. So in Blake's 80-pager, it has the text message and it says from, to, time, like it has all the context in it that this computer system did. It doesn't include emojis. Okay, like laughing emojis and all that stuff, it's not going to be included because it's an actual program. As opposed to that, Baldoni's team just included the snapshots of screenshots of text messages. Now, there's a problem with that because it's not official. You don't know if things have been deleted or altered or whatever, and there's no timestamps on it. Like, a lot of them don't have timestamps, so we don't know when those messages came out. So it's all out of context. So I see kind of the problems on both sides. Was the smiley face upside down emoji left out? Yeah, it was. But is it important? Absolutely not. Like, come on. All right. So that's another kind of big one in the document. Then let's kind of set aside the harassment and PR smear campaign, I guess, because to me, that is a whole issue in itself. The other issue is the taking control of the movie. Justin Baldoni goes into great detail in his 80-pager about how Blake pushed him out and basically completely took over editing, is what it sounds like. Now, we know from all the information we've gotten so far, from his 80-pager, from his 70-pager, we know that Blake and Justin were both instructed that they could edit their own versions, and the one that they like better, they would choose. Now, in Justin's camp, they're saying that his scored better, but Sony chose Blake anyway. Blake's side was saying that Sony and Wayfarer chose their version. So what's true, I don't know. But remember, Justin Baldoni is partial owner of Wayfarer, so he had a hand in that as well, a say in that as well. There's also text messages in Baldoni's side that say Blake was sticking with a lot of his edits anyway. So how much she changed, I don't know. But here's my thoughts on that. And again, please be kind. This is just my opinion. But here's my thoughts. I think they had a lot of animosity on set because of her feeling uncomfortable and then doing this whole HR thing. So he probably hated her for that whole meeting. I mean, I can just imagine, because I'm sure he wasn't being malicious when he was doing those things. It's just his personality. So I think there was hard feelings. From everything we're reading in both sides, the cast did not like him. The cast were not supporting of what he had done, and Colleen Hoover, the author, was already apparently not happy with him. And then when the accusations from Blake came out, she was even less of a fan of his. So it just does not sound like it was a good set, like a good enviro, right? So when Blake decides she wants to have a hand in things, he was encouraging it at first. And he shares text messages of that in his 80 pager. It shows Blake, him saying like, we need to redo this scene and change this. And she's like, oh, I was wondering if maybe we should do that. And he's like, if you ever feel that way, let me know. Like, I want your input. Like he was promoting this. He wanted her help. Like she's a huge voice in Hollywood, like has so much experience. So he was all about it. So because of that, I think she may have gone a little too far. And I think because she was so pissed at him and not liking him and the team was supporting her, I think she just kind of tried to step in a little more than she should. And I think he was like, this is awful. Because that was his baby, right? Like this was his thing. And I think she stepped in too much. And again, I mean, I'm looking at both sides, but that's just my opinion. I feel like she overstepped. The other part with that, and I think it's very clear in both of the documents, his 80 pager, her 70 pager, is that it got really bad when she was like, I want to be what is the word? A publisher? Promote? Guys, what's the word? Producer. She wanted the producer tag. It sounds like he didn't really want her to. She was like, I've had a huge hand in this. You know I do. They kind of had a bit of an argument over that. So she eventually got to the point where she wanted nothing to do with him. Like you could tell it got bad. So that's why she unfriended him. All the cast unfriended him. Colleen Hoover unfriended him. None of them followed him because of whatever was going on set with the whole harassment allegations and then the this just everything. Like it just did not sound good. So she was completely pushing him out of all the PR stuff. So wherever he would be, she wouldn't be. And wherever she would be, he wasn't allowed. And he, in his text messages with his editors, not her editors, remember there's two editors, but in his messages to his editors, he's even saying that she pushed him or tried to push him out of the premiere for the movie. She told him he couldn't go. And he was like, I'm going. So the way that they, met in the middle was he could go, but he would go first, do his thing. And then she would go and do her thing. And they had separate screening rooms. So they weren't even though we saw them there together, they weren't there together. So as soon as Blake arrived, he had to beat the feet and leave. So total drama, guys, like just a whole bad scene in general going on in that situation. So do I think it's right that she pushed him out of the movie? Not really. But again, I wasn't there. Like, I don't know if he was wanting it and then hated that he gave it to her. Like, we don't know. We weren't on the set. This is making them both look so bad. The whole smear against her made her look awful. The way she promoted the movie made her look awful. Him, basically with the whole accusations about the harassment situation, made him look awful. Now everything that's coming out with just the way everything was handled makes them both look awful. And like everybody keeps saying, the only people that win here are the lawyers. The publicists aren't even winning in this because they look horrid. Like both publicists look like complete asses, in my opinion. And the PR crisis team looks like hired hitmen. Like they look just nasty. Like the whole thing, it's just nasty. So nobody is winning in this. But the big problem now is the hate. Every time I try and post something, and yes, I believe that Blake's accusations are all true. I believe she completely felt uncomfortable on set. I completely believe things were done inappropriately. And I completely think he was then pushed out of the movie completely, which isn't fair to him either. So I can see kind of the wrongs and rights on both sides, but I totally support what Blake is saying with the accusations. I completely think that there was a smear campaign done. And it's because I've reported on this for, since the release of the movie, and I saw it play out. Like it definitely, in my opinion, was a smear campaign. And I know other people don't agree, but we don't have to agree. And people that are commenting saying I'm being paid by her camp, I wish. I am a little Canadian small-time influencer with 1 million followers. There's no way her camp is reaching out to me to be like, can you make these videos and push her side of it? Like, no, absolutely not. I wish, because I totally would, because I do support her. But no, that is not happening. I'm not being paid. This is just my opinion, and I'm just going through the documents and sharing it with you guys. So that's kind of the gist on how that played out. I apologize for turning the comments off. It got nasty in here with people being mean, so my mods couldn't keep up with it, so I had to go sub only. So I do apologize for that. But if I turn the comments back on and you guys promise to keep it chill, we can have a mature conversation in here. So maybe, I don't know, send a rose so I see, or send a bunch of hearts, like my video, to let me know if you're gonna be nice, and I'll turn the comments on. Well, we see some people. Okay, I'm going to try it. I want to have a conversation. Like, I want to hear your guys' questions and chat about this, because I've gone down this rabbit hole so deep. I just don't want my mods having to deal with a bunch of either, nasty comments or people being mean to other people and stuff. That I'm not okay with that. Definitely give me your opinions, though. Like, I want your opinion. Just do it in a nice way. Like, I'm not attacking people who support Justin, so don't attack me, okay? All right, we're turning you back on here. Mods, let me know if I got to turn it back off again, please. There we go. Okay, chat is on, and I want to hear your opinion, guys. Thanks, Mrs. Ruffin. What's the movie called? Oh, I should have said at the beginning. The movie's called It Ends With Us. It's out on Netflix now. I highly recommend watching it. It was an absolutely beautifully done movie. The two of them, despite hating each other, did an amazing job. And the book is awesome. Colleen Hoover, I loved the books. It definitely was a smear campaign in the beginning. Yeah. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you, darling. Hold on. I missed a comment there. The fact that they had a meeting at Sony before the movie even came out. Yes. So, we didn't talk about the Ryan Reynolds part of it. I got to share this too, because this is kind of interesting. But yes, they had a meeting well before the movie was done filming about the harassment accusations. Now, Justin's team is trying to skew it to make it look like Blake planted all this and said all of this in order to take over the movie. And then once they found out that the movie was being taken over, she would come out with these claims. Guys, that's such BS. I mean, whoever would believe that, right? Oh, thanks, Marta. That's absolute BS. Nobody plans that far ahead and says, I'm going to take this movie over, so now I'm going to put out some fake harassment claims where I felt uncomfortable, and I'm going to make everything up. Like, that's just asinine. But anyway, okay, the Ryan Reynolds part. Before the movie resumed filming, one of the things that Justin Baldoni says or accuses in his 80-pager is that Ryan Reynolds aggressively berated him. And that's the wording he used, aggressively berated him. So he makes it sound really bad, right? What he says is that he goes to Blake and Justin, Blake and Ryan's, for this meeting about Justin Baldoni's behavior. And when he gets there, he claims that he's sidelined and that Justin, and that Ryan attacks him and aggressively berates him in front of all these people. And he says that he's never been spoke to before in his life like that, and that he was apologizing profusely because he just wanted it to stop. And then when he left, somebody from Sony was like, I can't believe that just happened. And like, it's this whole big story in there. What else was said in that was that he accused Ryan Reynolds of approaching and his agent at the Deadpool Wolverine screening or premiere and trying to encourage him or them to drop Justin Baldoni from their agency. That was another accusation. And then what happened was in May, like after this meeting, Ryan Reynolds blocked Justin Baldoni on Instagram, and that's when everything kind of shit hit the fan. That's when Justin Baldoni reaches out to his publicist, excuse me, and says, we need to get ahead of this. We need to deal with this in case she comes out or they start coming out as a team and releasing the HR stuff. And that is when they hired the PR crisis person and everything just went to awful. So what has now come out is the agency dropped Justin Baldoni the day after Blake's accusations came out, which anybody would do, right? When those accusations come out, it's not a good look. So they dropped him. And then they get this 80-pager, this lawsuit that Justin comes out with saying that Ryan Reynolds tried to tell them to drop him. And they came out and they released a statement and they said it was BS. So they said that is not true, that they were never spoke to by Justin or Blake about dropping, I said Justin again, Ryan or Blake about dropping Justin Baldoni. They said that was false and that it didn't happen. What else they said is, or not them, but what else has happened is a source has come forward to TMZ and said that they were at the meeting at Ryan and Blake's house when Justin claims he was sidelined and aggressively berated by Ryan. Thanks, Marta. So when this meeting happened, he says, this source says that they were there and that Justin's team is blowing this way out of proportion. And I'm going to be honest, of course they are. That's what lawyers do. They blow everything out of proportion to make it look as bad as they can because then they have to defend it in court. So of course it's blown out of proportion. But what the source says was that yes, it took place. This meeting, they said, did not catch him off guard, that he was not, basically blindsided. They said that this was a planned meeting to go over the behavior of Justin Baldoni and Jamie Heath. And I completely believe that as well, because we saw the actual letter that Blake's legal team sent planning this meeting. So I completely believe that to be true, and Justin was not blindsided. Now, the other part of that is the source says that at no time did Ryan Reynolds raise his voice or aggressively berate Justin. The source says that he was passionate about it and that they said they'd call it stern, that he was speaking to him sternly, apparently, about the situation with Blake. So the situation that Ryan was talking to Justin about that day was specifically the fat shaming. So we did get that leaked in August, that Blake said she felt fat shamed by Justin. And here's the story with that. Justin Baldoni says he has a back issue and that he contacted Blake's trainer to ask how much she weighs because there was supposed to be a lift scene in the movie. This is Justin's side. Now, whatever Justin said to the trainer must have been bad because then the trainer went and told Blake. And Blake told Ryan, and then they had the conversation with Justin Baldoni. Blake says that there was no lift scene, and in the movie there isn't a lift scene, but she says that that is not the case, that she was 4 months post-baby, so she had a 4-month-old baby, so she still had baby weight, hence the trainer, and that he contacted the trainer and basically was fat shaming her, like saying that she weighs too much and they need to get the weight off. So there's two sides to that. And obviously Blake took it one way and Justin's saying he meant it another way. Ryan was basically just saying to him, like, this is never going to happen again. And apparently in a stern, impassioned way. Now, as for this source with TMZ, I have two thoughts on this. First of all, the source could be anyone at that meeting. And the people at that meeting would have been, I'm guessing, their publicists, the producers like Wayfair, the reps from Wayfair and Sony were there. They were there. I don't know everybody who was there, but we know those people for sure. So this source could totally be Blake's publicist. Could totally be, right? Now, Ryan, oh, no, I don't believe her publicist was there. I take that back. I just remembered reading her and his 80 pagers. It specifically said that she was allowed to have a rep with her and she chose Ryan Reynolds. She didn't choose her publicist. So I don't think their publicists were at this meeting. I take that back. So Ryan Reynolds was her person, and it said in his and her documents that Ryan Reynolds was the person she chose to be her representative. So no, the publicist wasn't there. So now that takes that theory. I kind of thought it might have been her publicist. So no, it could have been someone that was there from Wayfair or maybe the Sony rep. Okay, the Sony rep would not want his name out there because he'd have a big hate on with Justin for contradicting what was said. But I do hope Sony comes out and says something. And he did reference Sony in that, saying that the person that left from Sony was like, I can't believe that just happened. So yeah, guys, now I think it's the rep from Sony. There's my theory. I don't know if you guys agree, but yeah, that's my... Somebody just said the Sony rep already came out. Where is that? I need to know. Don't you think it was problematic that she was promoting her hair and alcohol brands? Oh, we'll talk about that in a sec too. I agree with Blake and all her co-stars taking her side. Oh, I think it's something else. Twitter didn't let me find. Okay. Oh, okay. Thanks, babe. Yeah, if you guys come across anything, make sure you send it. You can send me it on Instagram if it's a link or a picture, because I'm always updating on this stuff. But okay, so back to it. So Ryan Reynolds' name is getting cleared from aggressively berating him. But again, that could be perspective. Justin could be saying it was aggressively berating when he actually was just talking to him sternly. Like, we don't know, right? It's all perspective in this stuff. Like, Justin's going to make it sound bad. Blake's team's going to make it sound better. So, yeah. Okay, as for Blake's representation of the film, when Blake and her team went out and promoted this film, they were following... I don't have it here. There is an actual document that Blake included in her 70-page lawsuit that specifically tells them to avoid talking about DV and focus more on the hope that's involved in the movie. So Blake and her team were doing that. Justin didn't want to do that and went against it, especially after he saw the hate that was coming out against Blake for being tone deaf. So he kind of spun it and he focused more on the DV side of it. So it made him look good and it made her look really bad. Now, do I think that was a right way to promote it? No, I don't really. But I also think she didn't completely do that. You guys just didn't see the full clips of her interviews. If you guys go on like I did and search up these interviews, she tries to not lay into the DV side of it, but all the questions are about that. So then she talks about it. So she does 100% talk about it in an extremely respectful way. And if you want to see the clips that weren't shown, you can go check out my videos because I did upload them, guys. I put them in my file that's titled Blake Lively on my account. You just have to scroll back to find them. But it's the pieces of the interview that you didn't get to see. So it was all clipped, I'm guessing by his team, to show the bad parts of her interview and not the positive. As for her promoting, like, get your floral on, get your girls, go see it. Yes, they absolutely were doing that to make it a feel-good movie. They wanted you to go and see the hope and the love that can come out of these situations. And it just fell on deaf ears. People did not like that. And obviously I can understand it, right? Thank you, Bella. Thanks, guys. The other part is the hair and the, what was the other part? The makeup, right? Was it makeup? God, now I can't remember, guys. Was it just the hair? Or oh, her liquor. That's what it was. It was hair and liquor. Okay, so the hair care line. Blake has it in her document. The hair care line was set to be released. The launch was for August. The movie was supposed to be released in February. That just goes to show you what Sony was planning with the distribution of this film. They were going to release it around Valentine's Day. They wanted this to be a love film, guys, not a film about DV. They wanted, I think, to promote the Atlas side of it more. But anyway, it was supposed to be released in February. The strike pushed it and it got pushed to June. It still wasn't ready, so it got pushed to August. So unfortunately, it coincided at the same time as her her hair care release was. So there was a legit reason why that happened. It wasn't like she was planning like, I'm going to release this at the same time as the movie and then I'm going to get a bunch of like money from it. That's not what happened. But in the same breath, creators and actors constantly do this, guys. It's called cross promotion. If you have something big coming out, you promote it at the same time you're getting attention from something else. They do it all the time. And because Sony was pushing this as, you know, this feel-good, hopeful movie, she wouldn't have thought, and her team, the publicist, wouldn't have thought anything negative about pushing her hair care or pushing her fun drinks and whatever else there was being pushed. They wouldn't have thought anything of it because everybody did that. That's what happens. You cross-promote. Unfortunately, the DV side of this is what should have taken over. And so it just made her look so bad, and they were loving it. I don't believe they planted that. I think it was organic. I think people were like, ooh, this is a bad taste. Like, I don't like this part of it, but they definitely ran with it, and they definitely clipped out the bad parts. And I personally think they were digging up old interviews. Like, I completely think that Jed Wallace had that. Again, it's just my opinion, but that's my thoughts on that. I'm coming to your comments, guys. The book wasn't a feel-good, hopeful book. The book was everything. The book was a feel-good, amazing love story. The book was a devastating, heart-wrenching story about DV. The book was, I bawled for sad, I bawled for happy. Like, the book was everything. The book is her mother's life, right? Like, it was crazy. DV isn't always a storybook detail. DV can be accidents. This movie's beautiful. I agree. Can you do a quick recap on the situation? I'm trying to catch up. Hi, Emily. Emily, what I'll do, darling, is I will download this and upload it on my YouTube if you missed it, so you can watch the whole thing after. The second book was more heartwarming than the first book. Yeah, the second book is the continuation of her love with Atlas, and it does get kind of crazy in that as well. But the first book is all about her domestic situation with Ryle. So it's definitely hard to watch, guys. No problem, Chris. Yes, I love the books too. It was amazing. Yes, there's a second book. Lainey, you're going to love it. Go read. Blake is a bully. Never liked her and I never will. See, those comments crack me up. Okay, I'm coming back. I'm losing the comments here. Blake is a bully and I never liked her. BS. Guys, Blake has never been labeled or branded a bully. There was the thing with Gossip Girl years back where they were saying that she and a co-star had issues and it got blown out of proportion, and all the co-stars had to come out and say, like, this didn't happen. Like, no, they don't hang out outside of the show, but they're not enemies. So that was all cleared up. That is the only thing you can find on Blake Lively for being a bully or unliked on set anywhere. Like, if you can find something else, like I said, send it to me. But that is absolutely not true. People are saying that because of all this hate that came out in August. That is the number one thing that people were pushing. Blake's a mean girl. We all hate her. We always have. Nope. Lies. Everybody loved her. Everybody loved her. She's Taylor Swift's best friend. She's married to Ryan Reynolds, like the funniest, greatest guy ever. Like, no, she had no hate towards her at all until this. And that's why I completely believe the smear campaign was in full force, and it took her reputation down. She did not have a bad reputation until this movie premiere. I can send you texts and articles on us hating on her clothes for years. Oh my God, hating on clothes is different. The people don't like her fashion sense. That's different. That's not her being a mean girl or a bully. Somebody just said you don't know her. I don't have to know her. I'm talking about the media. I'm not talking about her in her public life. She could be a total bitch at home. I have no idea. I'm talking about media. Nobody was saying she was a mean girl, and nobody was saying that she was a bully. She's never had any issues on a movie set. In fact, the opposite. Her co-stars, including a director, have come out and supported her. It's false, guys. I hate to say it. Hating on her clothes is you guys being bullies. Yeah. Everybody's saying, yes, they have. Send it to me then. If you can find it, send it to me on Instagram. I am 100% on board with reading all... Oh, stop. Hold on. I got to do this thing. With reading everything you guys send me, and any evidence and facts you guys have, send it away. Because I have dug into this, guys, more than you can imagine since last August. I've been reporting on this. And you can go look at my videos to find out. It's absolutely false. Lily's clothes in the movie were not it. Kelsey, I actually didn't mind them in the end. Remember when the pics, guys, this is another story for this. Do you remember when the pictures leaked of Blake Lively on set filming It Ends With Us, and she looked like a bag lady? She looked like a homeless person. Like the outfits didn't match. Like she had beanie, like the whole thing. That is what I remember as being like, oh my God, what are they doing with her wardrobe? Do you guys remember that? So when that got leaked, everybody was like, we hate her wardrobe. Oh my God, this is awful. So now what's happening is Justin's trying to say when Blake took over wardrobe, that was her wardrobe choice and it was all bad and they hated it and they needed to make changes. Blake, however, it seems to be thinking the other side, that there was wardrobe laid out, but then they didn't like it, so they made tweaks. Now, in his document, he says that Blake totally took over wardrobe and that it cost them like all this crazy amount more in their budget and they hadn't budgeted for it. And anyway, I think that's all BS myself. But if you remember, the two of them during the promo of this movie were also talking about the fact that most of the changes she made to wardrobe were her own clothes. Like the ripped jeans with the flowers or whatever, those were her own pants. Like, so what do you mean blew the budget up? Like, you've both admitted that most of it was her own clothing. So anywho, so once those pictures leaked of her looking like a bag lady, apparently Sony contacted Justin and was like, people are hating this. We can't have Lily looking like this. People don't like the wardrobe. We need to change this. So both of them admit this happened. He goes to her trailer and they have this really long, in-depth conversation about wardrobe and how they can fix it. Now, she says at the time that he came at her and was like fat shaming her and saying she looked old and that this came from Sony. And so again, she felt fat shamed and again, she felt like unattractive and gross. And he says he didn't deny saying any of that, but he says what happened when he went there is that they had this really good conversation about it. And she says that he was even crying during this because Sony was upset and calling her apparently fat or whatever, or he was. He says that he did end up tearing up, but he says it's because she was saying how great of a producer he's been or something like that, and it made him tear up. So they're both saying it happened. There's semantics involved, but they're both saying it happened over wardrobe. The other thing that I kind of was like, come on, was he tried to make it sound like she was being difficult with wardrobe and wouldn't come to the set for fittings and was making them pack the stuff and come to her. Whether she made them do that or not, I don't know. But she lived 15 minutes away and he's trying to act like this blew their budget up with travel expenses and all this stuff. That is not the case. She lived 15 minutes from the studio. And he even says that in his document. And she had a brand new baby at home. So my guess is they were doing this to help her out because she's breastfeeding and has this new baby and other children at home. So they would go to her so she's more comfortable and able to do fittings. And she was using her own wardrobe. So the wardrobe expert that was on set wanted to look through her closet and check out stuff. So anyway, I'm coming back to comments. Hold on. I squirreled. Why not mention the plantation? I'll mention that if you want me to. The plantation things, guys, that is true. They got married on the plantation and unfortunately, everybody was back then. It's horrid. I don't know why someone would ever want to have a wedding when you have literal slave quarters in the background, but that seemed to be the thing. I don't know, at this location. Now, this location, this plantation that she got married at was the set for one of the most romantic movies in our history, The Notebook. They filmed there. They used the house as Allie's summer home in that. So, of course, all the brides would want to get married there, right? Which promoted that friggin' plantation even more. And as far as I can find out, they actually still have weddings at this location. Like, anyway, Blake and Ryan at the time said they found it on Pinterest, probably from The Notebook clippings, but they said they found it on Pinterest. It was beautiful. They had their wedding there. And then they said as years went by, they regretted it and they got remarried at their home in a whole separate ceremony to try and like have something replace the awfulness they felt from the plantation apparently. And then in 2020, during the whole Black Lives Matter movement that came out and started waking people up to the systemic racism that is in our world, they ended up coming out and issuing an apology for it. They were like, guys, this is what we did. Like, we're sick that we did this. You know, it's awful, blah, blah, blah. Like, we can't take it back. You know, we're going to try and move forward and learn from this. They donated something like $200,000 to the NAACP. They started a foundation helping Black people as well as other under-recognized population to break into the industry if that's what their goal was. So they tried to at least make amends for it and apologize, which is more than other people have done. But unfortunately, getting married on a plantation back then did not have the connotation to it that it should have. Like people were like, oh, it's beautiful. Let's get married here. Like, ew. But anyway, yes. So it legit is true. They absolutely did. The plantation does a lot of heritage preservation and Gula history education. Yeah, Kristen, I think they're doing that now to try and make amends, I think, for what happened there. But I don't even think, honestly, I don't even know how I feel about tours being taken place there. I mean, it's good that the public sees the atrocities that happen to Black people, I guess, and so that we don't rewrite history or dismiss what actually happened. I guess that's the good side of it, but that's not all they're doing there. Like, it's still like a working farm right now. I don't know. The whole thing just has a bad taste in my mouth. Blake does not have a good past on being a bully. No, she absolutely does. She does not have a past in being a bully at all. And if you find an article stating otherwise, please send it to me. No comments on her Preserve Us Insta account. Wait, what? I don't know what that one says. Sorry, darling. She does have a past on being a bully. Guys, you keep saying this, but I'm telling you, I have investigated and researched this till I don't know how many hours I've spent on this. And there's nothing. There's nothing. There's the Gossip Girl rumors, which I've already proved were not true. They were false. That came out long ago. And that's the only thing that I've been able to locate. If you have something else, send it to me. Don't just drop in here and say, yes, she does. Tell me an example then. I absolutely 100% love is an actress. She is real and I enjoy watching her film. She cuts women off in interviews and jokes inappropriately. Jax. Oh, I got to turn off invites again. Hold on, guys. Turn off. Making jokes is her sense of humor. Like, people, I think, don't always get her sarcastic sense of humor. So yes, I've seen her making jokes and stuff in things. That is not being a bully. And cutting people off, Jesus, if that's a bully, I'm definitely one, because my ADHD, I cut everyone off. I don't know much about her, but this is interesting. Thanks, Shal. Woody Allen and Harvey Weinstein. Oh yes, let's talk about that for a moment. Another huge myth that's going around. People were saying that she supported Harvey Weinstein. As soon as the allegations came out about what he had done, she completely dissed and cut ties with him. And there are quotes of her saying how disgusting it is and we need to support these women and we need to believe victims. Like, that is 1,000 gazillion% false. She has never stood behind him and never supported him at all. She completely was the opposite. As for Woody Allen, that is more tricky. And I got so much hate for posting my video on the Woody Allen thing. People thought I was supporting and promoting this man. Anyway, I posted a whole timeline of the Woody Allen situation because Woody Allen's situation is so complicated and confusing and gross. Like, it's weird. It's not like Harvey Weinstein. It's completely separate. What that is this. I'll sum it up as quick as I can. Woody Allen, in my opinion, is disgusting. We'll get to that in a sec. Here's the timeline. I will explain it first. Woody Allen and Mia Farrow connect. They get together. Apparently, they never moved in together. They weren't married. They were together for something like 12 years. Mia Farrow had adopted children with her first husband. Then she adopts children with Woody Allen as well. Woody Allen adopts the children that she had, 2 of them anyway, that she had with the other husband, but not Soon-Yi, I think is her name. Forgive me if I said her name wrong. I think it's Soon-Yi, who they adopted, I believe, from Korea. He did not adopt her. Now, the legal proceedings that followed show that in the investigations they did, that he had nothing to do with Soon-Yi, that he did not raise her, that he was not a father figure apparently in her life. But guys, she was still there. Like, she was still an adopted daughter of Mia Farrow. Okay. Like anyway, I don't know if she lived with the dad more and that's why Woody didn't adopt her or tried to adopt her, but he adopted, the 2 other, Dylan and Ronan. He adopted them. Dylan's a girl and Ronan's the boy. He adopted both of them. Now, he also adopted Moses. God, am I saying the name wrong? No, I think it's right. Anyway, who was also one of Mia Farrow's adopted children. I'm telling you, it's confusing. There's a lot. Now, what ended up happening is this. He starts cheat, in my opinion, I believe cheating. I think they say it wasn't, but I think it was cheating. But anyway, he ends up cheating on Mia Farrow with Mia's adopted daughter, Soon-Yi, who is 20 or 21 years old. I think they try to say 21 or 20. Now, Mia Farrow's camp believes that she was, I think, 17 is what they think when this gross relationship started. But Woody Allen and this investigation say that it was when she was either 20 or 21. I can't remember which. You can believe what you want to believe. I don't want to believe any of it. It's disgusting. But anyway, so he starts this relationship with her adopted Korean daughter. She thinks, okay, whatever. She ends up finding pictures soon after she finds out about this relationship. She finds naked pictures of her adopted daughter in Woody's apartment. Ugh. But anyway, So she knew about this relationship. It sounds like she kind of maybe tried to make it work. So I don't know. But anyway, months later, she finds out it's still going on. She calls her psychiatrist or psychologist and says, like, he's evil, he's disgusting, help me make it end. Like, what do I do? As any woman would, right? That's disgusting. But anyway, then the next day, like it just looks so bad. But the next day, Mia Farrow accuses Woody Allen of inappropriately touching their mutual now adopted daughter, Dylan. And she was apparently 7 years old at the time. So Mia calls the psychiatrist and says, help me stop this. And then the next day, she claims that this takes place. She doesn't come out and tell everybody at this time that it took place, but that's the day she says it happened, is the day after she called this psychiatrist. So this is why I think people were confused with the situation. I personally think people were doubting the story. But anyway, so, and it was a one-time thing. It wasn't this ongoing situation. It was a one-time thing, apparently, from what I can gather. And Dylan says that he touched her genitals while she was laying on her belly playing with trains at their summer house on this day. He tries to get custody of Dylan and Ronan from Mia Farrow. And that very same day, Mia Farrow contacts the police and they go after Woody for inappropriately touching Dylan. Okay, so that's when everything breaks. So him going after custody and the inappropriate touching all breaks on the same day. So all these people come out, support Woody Allen, even though he's dating Mia Farrow's 20-year-old daughter, but adopted daughter. Anyway, whatever, gross. All these people come out and support him. And then basically there's nobody not supporting him at this time. Like everybody was like, it's a family issue. I don't know if it was because of the time that this happened, if it was because it just seemed odd with the timing around how this accusation came out. I don't know what it was, but I don't know why people weren't like, ew, you married Mia Farrow's adopted daughter at 20 years old. You're disgusting. But they weren't. They weren't. We're talking Selena Gomez. We're talking Miley Cyrus. We're talking Timothy Chalamet, like Alec Baldwin, like you name it. They were all working on Woody Allen's films at that time. And Blake Lively was one included. Now, when the accusations start coming out in newspapers, Ronan wrote like an essay. It was during one of the movies that she was in with Woody Allen. And people start questioning, what do you guys think of the accusations against Woody Allen? Her response was this. She said, I can't talk about something I know nothing about. Like it wouldn't be ethical. I can only speak from my experience. And my experience is he was empowering to women on set. That's all she said. That is the only quote out there about Woody Allen. She didn't work with him again. She's never, that I've found, been quoted about talking about him ever again. She hasn't come out and like disowned him or whatever, but there's nothing else. So did she support him? If you consider still being on his film, supporting him, yes. But then you also have to consider everybody else was as well. So everyone was supporting him, unfortunately, at that time still. But did she defend him? No. She's never come out and defended him. She just said that when she worked with him on the set, he was empowering to women and that she couldn't talk about the situation because she didn't know anything about it. So no, she didn't defend him, but you're kind of showing support when you work with someone during that allegations, but everybody was like, literally nobody was believing Mia Farrow at that time. Like it's a weird situation. I think just the fact that he ended up marrying Mia Farrow's adopted daughter should gross everybody out, but apparently it didn't. I don't know. Can we be real and say Ronan Farrow is Frank Sinatra's son? Allison, that's what Mia Farrow said in an interview. Please talk about her infamous interview and the statement the interviewer made recently. Oh, Michelle, that's a good one. All right. Let's get into this next, guys. Man, we have talked about a lot. If you're just joining and you missed the whole beginning, it's too much to recap, so I will upload this to my YouTube channel. It's just the recap with Julie. Or you can click on my link. It'll take you right to my bio. Okay. Thank you, Shade. Thank you, 50. So the situation with that. Okay. I am not a fan of Kirsty Flaw, and I will tell you why. Anywho, okay, here's the scoop. Kirsty Flaw's story was planted. 1,000 gajillion billion % planted at that time because of the hate on Blake. And I personally believe it was his PR team that arranged it. Do I think that she released it because his PR team contacted her? Not necessarily. I don't think that, but I think the person who contacted her 100% was doing it on purpose because of his PR team. I would love to know the person who contacted her, who it was. She is not told yet, but she did say a reporter friend of hers reached out to her and asked her about the interview with Blake Lively and got her to post it again. So yes, I completely think it was a setup. Here's the scoop with that. She posts it and she says something like the interview that made me want to quit and posted about Blake Lively. She only put the small clip in there of it. She doesn't give any context around what was happening in the world at that time and why Blake would have responded like she did. She just shows it and tries to say Blake Lively was such a bitch and a bully and a mean girl or whatever. Do I think she was a bitch? Yes. Do I think there was a reason? Yes. And we're going to talk about that in a second. There absolutely was. And I looked into it. Okay. So Kirsty Flaw uploads this video. It's the first video in over a year that she's uploaded on that YouTube channel. And the first post she ever made on TikTok in like 3 years. Like, this woman was done. She was not posting, guys. This is not a woman who was actively researching and doing things. No, she did nothing until this phone call. And then she's like, oh yeah, sure, I can post that video. And she uploads it. And I personally think that's what really harmed Blake, because she looked like a total bitch. However, it needs to be noted that Kirsty Flaw was full of shit because she also worked with Blake again. She did not get so offended that she was like, I'm never interviewing her again. No, she interviewed Blake again. And she also tried to skew things. So in one of the clips, she's like, I interviewed Blake again, but I knew it was going to be bad. And you can tell by my face, because in it, her face is making these weird things. Like, she's like making these weird faces. And she's trying to say she was making those weird faces because of Blake. No, I went and found the full video and watched it. She was making those faces at the production team. The production team got her name wrong. They thought someone else was supposed to be in there. I can't remember the name. Let's say it's me, Julie Louise. So they were like, your name is Chris. Is it Kirsty? And she's like, yeah, Flaw. It's Flaw. And she's making these faces. And they're like, oh, we had Julie Louise down. Like, I don't. And she's like making these faces. So she was not making it towards Blake Lively. She's full of shit. She was making it towards the mistake that was made. And if you don't believe me, go watch the clip yourself. And I even helped you. I uploaded it to my channel in August or whenever it was that she released this video. It's in my file on my profile here. And it says Blake, it's called Blake Lively. Click on it and you'll find me saying what's going on with this interviewer. The other thing to note is after this interviewer, Kirsty Flaw, got all this attention and fame from posting this nasty video of Blake's, she started posting other ones. Who is it, guys? Is it Selma Hayek? I can't remember. She posted another one that was like, the interview that almost made me want to quit, like same kind of title. And it was like a mean girl thing again. And she posted, and yes, the person was Anne Hathaway. Thank you, guys. It was Anne Hathaway. And it made Anne Hathaway look terrible, but nobody jumped on it quite the way they did here. Everybody was still, we love Anne Hathaway, because there wasn't this huge PR nightmare going on with the two of these guys, right? Okay. So yeah, there's the scoop with that. Now we need context. The interview that Blake did, yes, she sounded like a bitch. Yes, she could have handled it differently. However, there was context that this reporter absolutely knew about and completely left it out. Here's what it is. When this interview took place in 2016, there was a huge movement in Hollywood with female actresses called #AskUsMore. At that time, all the female actresses were fed up with being asked about their weight, their clothing, their babies, their pregnancies, and not being asked about the movies they were in. They wanted to be asked the same questions the men were being asked about. Like, how did you feel playing this character? What are your thoughts on this? They wanted the change to take place. So they started this movement called Ask Us More. And that's what they were doing. And they were all doing it. Like there's clips of Nicole Kidman being asked like, you know, something about her clothing, and she literally like looks at them and walks away. Like they were all doing this. She was a huge spokesperson for this at that time. There's other like interviews and stuff that she did talking about this. There are conventions she held where she's up there like talking about this movement and how impassioned she is about this. So as soon as she sits down with this interviewer who supposedly was working for a fashion magazine, who totally should have known all about this movement at the time and respected that. But anywho, sits down, and the very first question out of her mouth is about Blake's belly. And she doesn't even really do it in a nice way. She's like, how's the belly bump or the baby bump or whatever she said. And so Blake doesn't quite know how to respond and throws it back at her. She's like, well, how's your bump? Or something along those lines. Not insinuating the woman was fat. She's just like, how do you like it being asked that question? So yes, it was like, you could tell it was spur of the moment. Not a good response. Definitely looked bitchy, but there's a reason. The very next thing she says, how did you feel wearing the clothing from that timepiece? And so she looks at Parker Posey, who is her co-star, and this is what she says. Did you notice what she says? She says, do you think she'd ask the men on set the same question? Like she's in this movement, guys. That's why she did it. It wasn't that she was trying to be a bully or she's a mean girl. She's trying to represent this movement and take a stand in, unfortunately, a bitchy way. And then it got released. So it was released long ago. Nobody was like, she's a mean girl, she's a bully. Because when it was released in 2016, everyone knew about this movement. And they were like, yay, Blake, for standing up for your co-stars and yourself. Like, she was praised at the time this came out. You can find articles where they're like, Blake standing up for the women in Hollywood again. And then this friggin' reporter puts it out now after everyone's forgot about all of that with no context. And everyone's like, she's a mean girl. Look what she's doing to Justin Baldoni. Like, anyway, sorry. I was so angry when that came out. You guys will know if you watch my old posts. Like, I just couldn't believe what was happening. I was like, why is nobody looking into this? People are just trying to cancel her for no reason. There's context. Like, everyone coming in the comments and saying, she's a mean girl, she's a bully. Give me one time where that's true. Send me a link on Instagram. I will read all of your articles. If you can find anything that shows that she was a mean girl on set or a bully, the Gossip Girl thing, don't send me that because I've already dispelled that was fake. Gossip Girl came out, as you guys know, that Blake and another co-star supposedly were at war and it was making all the cast have to choose sides. The co-stars already came out when that was happening and said, this isn't true. This is BS. Somebody just made a story and it leaked and it went like crazy. So it was not true. They said that they weren't like best friends outside. They didn't hang out outside, but they said when they got on set, they actually were really good and they almost seemed like best friends, like their characters were. So no, don't give me the Gossip Girl thing, but send me anything else. Like, seriously, guys, I want to know. Like, if you can find something, send it to me and I will post on it. There is nothing. I've dug into this since August. Everybody loved her. Everything I posted was all, we love Blake and Ryan. We love Taylor Swift. Everything was positive, until the premiere of this movie and all of the kind of tone deaf stuff started happening and the PR smear started taking place. And now everybody says stuff that's not true. Also, she made no effort to raise awareness for DV. The marketing plan was to raise awareness for DV. That's false as well. That is absolutely false. So at the time, she was going to shelters and promoting things. And in his document, his publicist even talks about that and says, I can't believe she's not talking about the shelters and the DV situations she's dealt with. Like it says right in the document. And she was talking about some of that. It's just she was trying to keep things on the hope and the love side of it, like she was directed. And so her DV comments would come after, and the PR team was clipping the bad parts that sounded tone deaf and not the parts where she talked about DV. If you want to see examples, I uploaded them all. You can just go watch my videos and you'll see the other part that none of you have seen. Just mad about her fashion. Oh, yeah. I've heard people that say they don't like her fashion sense. I'm not making any judgments on anyone. We'll never truly know what happened. It's a he said, she said. And unfortunately, it really is. It's probably one of the worst he said, she said things since Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. Like, it's so messy. The only people winning in this is the lawyers. Their careers have both taken a huge hit. It's weird how much they distorted his texts. They didn't at all. They didn't distort anything. So the text messages that they were like, they left out context. What they left out was an upside down smiley emoji because the system Blake used to extract the texts electronically are like the legal way of doing it. And it puts the timestamp and who and from on every text message. That's what she used. It doesn't include emojis. And what he used was screenshots, which don't have timestamps, which can be deleted, like that whole bit. And them saying they left out stuff. I did a whole video yesterday, a 4-part series on the stuff that was left out that they showed. And it's like they showed the beginning, which is the important part. And then they just didn't include like the subsequent messages that had nothing to do with what their statement was. So it was just context. They just tried to make it sound bad. Oh, someone just said she refused to meet with the intimacy coordinator. Wrong. That's in my video as well. The screenshot between Justin and Blake, it's when Justin finally hires the intimacy coordinator. He writes Blake and says, I've hired the intimacy coordinator. I'll set up a time, and I love her. I'll set up a time for you to be introduced to her. And she says, no, that's okay. I'm good with it. Thanks anyway. What she was saying no to was being introduced to her, not saying no to a meeting, not saying no to a planning session or going over things with the coordinator. That's not what she said no to. She said no to the introduction. And then he writes the producer and makes it sound bad. And I've got the picture in my video if you want to go check it. He writes the producer and he's like, just wanted you to know this. Blake doesn't want to meet with the coordinator. It's probably going to mess up the workflow, but I certainly will meet with her. And then she writes back and says like, oh, that's fine if she doesn't want to. You'll just have to relay whatever you go over. That's all it is. Like, it was not her refusing to work with the coordinator. It was, she just didn't need an introduction. She was like, I trust you. I don't know if she was saying I trust you, but she's like, I trust the intimacy coordinator. I don't need an introduction. I'll deal with it when the thing comes up. My source is his documents. I went through his 80 pager and it's right in there. Did he respond about talking to her deceased dad? No, he didn't. No, he didn't. Honestly, guys, he didn't deny anything. He didn't deny any of Blake's allegations. He tried to excuse a couple and give a bit of like context around a couple, but he didn't deny any of it. And he only touched on maybe like 3 of the accusations. His big thing is his whole thing that he wanted to get out was that she pushed him out of the editing process and took over the movie. That's what he wanted you guys to hear. He will be suing her, so that will all come out. Yes. So he's going to apparently countersue. So then we'll get, actually, we probably won't get anything different from that. It might be the same that went into the New York Times, but no, it'll probably be different. We might get more from that. But we're going to get the most after discovery and trial. Because in trial, in discovery and trial is where we're going to get all of the outside people having to be witnesses. That's where we're going to know the story. We're not going to get anything from these two or their lawyers or their publicists. It's going to be from all the outside people, like all of the cast, Sony itself. Like those are the people that need to say what actually was going on. Because this is just he said, she said. Justin seems more genuine. And that was the point. And if you read the text messages on both of their documents, that was the point. Justin was instructed to come across like that, to seem genuine, to talk more about the DV survivors, not to bash her at all. And she didn't bash him either. She didn't say anything negative at all. Nothing got leaked from her team until the lawsuit. He has been advocating for women's rights for a long time. Yes, he has. And I just watched Nick Viall, who I'm not always a fan of, but he made a really good point. He called it gaslighting. He's like, he tries to act like he's this big supporter for women and, you know, women's rights. And then he goes on set and kind of acts that way. Like they're kind of looking at it like it's gaslighting now, that it's just actually his persona. I don't know if that's the case or not. But if you want more info on this or looking into it, I have done this as best I can. Just go check out my Blake Lively folder for all the videos. I've shown the interview clips where she does talk about DV. I've given context around stuff. I went through all of his legal documents in a 4-part series if you guys want to check it out. But have an awesome day. And mods, thank you for trying to keep it sane in here as always. I know there's a ton of hate with this situation for some reason, but I respect everyone's opinions as long as you say it in a nice way. Have the best day, guys.